Yeah. Running back nation. What is good? It is I, DJ Eastwood, running back Philly. No frauds, no fanboys, no intros. Algo Gang, do your thing. Hit the like button. That helps push this content across the YouTube algorithm. Flood the comments. Be active in the chat. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Hit the notification bell. And one more thing. Get $200 in free bets on DraftKings when you bet $5 on any game. Could be tonight's game. Could be the Eagles versus the Vikings on Monday night's game. That rhymed. Eastwood got bars out here. Hold on. Use the link in the description. Bet $5 on any game. You get $200 in free bets. Only from DraftKings. Let's get into this, man. I got Steven Conrad Jr. from the Liberty Line right here, and I got Dave with Minnesota Sports Talk. We got a collab across the country. Is that across the country, or is that the middle of the country?
Well, I'm in South Florida. I'm from South Dakota originally, so I know a Dallas Goddard when I see him. South Dakota State U.
Fair enough, Dave. Fair enough, man. So it's not across the country. We're all on the East Coast, but either way.
I was wondering how you were so good with our timing. I was wondering, like, wait, we're trying to schedule the time of the stream tonight. And
I'm throwing
I'm
throwing EST at you. And
the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Minnesota Vikings. We got Steven from the Liberty Line. We got Dave from Minnesota Sports Talk. We're going to chop it up. We're going to talk about the game that's going to happen on Monday night, what we think about it. And I'm just going to jump right into it by bringing this up on the screen. Speaking of DraftKings, the spread for Monday night is 2 points. The Philadelphia Eagles are favored on DraftKings right now by 2 points. Now listen, if you want that free $200 and you want to bet your $5 and you bet on the Vikings and you're an Eagles fan, you just don't tell anybody. That's what you do, okay? You don't tell anyone. Because that 2-point spread is pretty scary considering the Eagles couldn't even cover the damn 4.5 point spread against the Detroit Lions on Sunday. All right.
Good point.
So, I want your guys. I'm gonna get your guys' thoughts on that specifically because I didn't know what to expect when I was looking up what the spread was. I didn't know which team was going to be favored. And my opinion right now is that I am nervous as an Eagles fan about the Minnesota Vikings this Monday night simply because we gave up 35 points to the Detroit Lions. Jonathan Gannon's schemes have been questionable all last season, and it was questionable week one. We didn't show much fight defensively at all, and the Minnesota Vikings have 100 times more talent on the offensive side of the ball than the Detroit Lions. Kirk Cousins, obviously better than Jared Goff. Justin Jefferson over there. Dalvin Cook in the backfield. I mean, if DeAndre Swift had 155 yards rushing or whatever it was, what's Dalvin Cook going to do to us? So I don't have a good feeling. Hopefully, Steven, maybe you'll be positive when it comes to the Eagles. But that's where I'm at with it. I don't know if I trust the 2-point favorite. Steve, what do you think?
As much as I wanted to come on here and be the positive, optimistic guy, I actually side with you, and it's probably a good thing that we have a Vikings content creator here just to provide something a little bit different and
provide some positivity.
I don't know. I'm very curious to see your general stance on this matchup, this week 2 matchup. But I personally am very nervous, obviously considering what just happened with the Eagles in week 1. But I don't know if I love the matchup. Eastwood mentioned what Dalvin Cook did. It's funny. It's really funny because I was a big Dalvin Cook fan coming out of college. I actually wanted him, to come to the Eagles a few years ago when he came out of the draft. And then obviously the whole thing with Justin Jefferson. So it's kind of bittersweet. And then the fact that you guys have Jalen Reagor now, who I, more than any other Eagles fan, kind of clamored on to hope with him. I gave him a lot of time, a lot of leeway considering all of the shortcomings he had here in Philly, obviously, but I would love nothing more than to see him somehow cost the Vikings in any way. Maybe he drops a punt. That'd be interesting. But just general takes right now, I'm very nervous about this game, man. I don't know how to feel about it.
For me, I started feeling optimism in the off season when I started to see how our team was starting to shape out, and obviously like Zadarius Smith and the new defense, and it was just looking really good in the off season. That was been our biggest problem. Is like people talk about Kirk Cousins and saying he needs everything perfect around him. I'm like, he hasn't seen an offensive line ranked higher than 26 in his lifetime as a starter, and he's only had like one good defense since he's been a starter too. So I'm just wanting average. I'm just wanting average offensive line, average defense, and see what he can do. And it seems like week one, it's looking good, right? And I'm feeling more optimistic at this game just because I'm listening to Eagles podcasters, and I'm hearing, and then I'm reading articles about how you're potentially gonna fire your defensive coordinator after one game. And then I'm not even talking about the game that you guys played. I was licking my chops, but when I went back and looked at your game, and you got a pick six, awesome. Your defense made plays. I feel like ours did too. We had two turnovers. I predicted a strip sack and an INT by Smith, and it came to fruition. Sure enough, it happened. So I guess looking at and then that onside kick that they did after they scored, and just to give you, hey, here's some free points. I'm feeling pretty good about the game. I can see us being 2-point dogs just because of where we started. They all, a lot of people think we're going to be a below 500 team or 500 at best, but you can't be 500 anymore. But I just assume we were going to be dogs on the road to you guys. It's a tough place to play. We're not going to have many fans there after 2017.
Hey! Are you guys staying away from the Rocky statue?
I was gonna formally apologize for the idiots to decide to make the biggest locker room material you could possibly do right before we go play an NFC title game. I would, believe me, there's a lot of Viking fans that were pretty upset that some assholes went and did that to Rocky.
Especially our fan base too, right?
I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's like and we're just watching videos of families with their kids walking the stadium in purple and full beer cans being chucked at them as they're walking by.
Yeah. Well, hey, I remember before that game, and that was a playoff game too, which the intensity is even higher more. I remember seeing a clip from a Minnesota news show, and a guy was explaining to Minnesota locals. He said, "Do not wear Vikings jerseys to that stadium." He seriously. He said, "Think of it as gang colors, and you're in foreign turf." Like, he was being serious. And yeah, full beer cans. That's not cool at all. None of us endorse that. You know what I mean? None of us obviously endorse violence, but the people down there, when it comes to the birds, are not. They are very just unhinged. The
Vikings
safe.
Wire.
Be safe.
The Vikings Wire put out a disclaimer about that exact fact. Don't wear your colors. Don't go. Basically, it started out, don't go to the game. Then it was like, if you do, don't do these things. And I've seen. I was watching, because I started watching a couple of your guys' videos, and it took me to other Eagles content. And it was like there was someone like, don't drink at the game because they're gonna be already inebriated. We don't want you getting drunk and causing yourself problems because they're not gonna give a shit.
So. Yeah, I think it was probably the fact that they felt disrespected by the Rocky statue thing. You can wear your jersey to the game. You're gonna get booed. You just walk, you sit in your seat, whatever. I don't think there's random violence against everyone, but that was. That was intense.
It was a dark day in football history all around. For us, anyways.
It really was.
It started out nice. We were up 7-0. Didn't carry though.
On the other hand, though, during the Super Bowl parade, Eagles fans threw a beer can at Doug Peterson, and he caught it and opened it and chugged it. So I'm just saying, I'm just saying, certain people handle things differently when they, you throw a beer can at Doug Peterson, he's drinking it. But anyway, Dave, I wanted to ask you because the Lions, Jalen Hurts ran 17 times for 90 yards against the Detroit Lions. They didn't seem to adjust a whole lot. And I didn't get to catch a whole lot of the Vikings-Packers game, but the Vikings had 4 sacks in that game, I believe. And just kind of tell me about what you think about the Vikings pass rush, and do you think there's a plan to maybe spy on Jalen Hurts? Because the Lions were coming straight up the middle. They were sending the house a lot, and Hurts was just running right, and he was just running right around it the whole game, and it just seemed like they weren't really adjusting. What do you think about that?
Well, historically, Rodgers, although older, has been a very mobile quarterback and has gashed us for many a first down. And lane integrity has not always been solid with us in previous games. And the one thing I marveled about, our completely new defense, and we were basically rushed 4 the whole game, and he could not step up into the pocket, or it wouldn't open up like the freaking Red Sea, and he could just run for a first down every time. They even when we stunted, and we did that quite a bit, they kept lane integrity and got to him one way or the other. I just think that would be the key to our game against you guys, because Hurts, ran for 17 for 90 yards, right? And although probably half of those were read options, RPOs, or no. So I'm not crazy in saying this, and I think you probably agree. He's been right now a read first, or a first read and run type of. If it's not there, he's going to run. He wants to run if it's not there, that first read. So I think if we keep that lane integrity, that would be our best chance of, holding them to, 50 yards rushing or whatever, and maybe get to him a little bit. And I was really impressed with Tomlinson. And he got rated pretty high from PFF, if you pay any attention or care about that. But him and Harrison Phillips kept their lanes and got a push and actually pressured the quarterback. They didn't get to him. Zadarius did, Wanham did, and Daniil Hunter did. So it's just they did their jobs, or defensive line did their jobs. And if they do that again, that gives a really good chance, I think.
For sure.
I got a question. Don't you think, as far as, so you mentioned, it's so interesting with Hurts, because you would have thought the mentality towards slowing him down if you're the Lions, and obviously I expect the Vikings to have probably a better game plan, but also I just think their game plan is going to work better, because I just think they have a better. Do they have a better defense than the Lions? They got to. I think around
personnel wise, it's pretty solid. I mean, Kendricks, outstanding linebackers, Zadarius Smith.
Okay, so that's the key to stopping Hurts, right? You got to have good linebacker play.
Oh, Hicks had 14 tackles. Asamoah, that we drafted from Oklahoma, is fast. We basically drafted 4 defensive players that are all super fast coming out of college, and they barely got to play yet, so they might see more time. Like Lewis Seen, we kept him out week 1. Asamoah didn't get a whole lot of snaps yet, and then we actually can't think of it right now, but we have a cornerback that stepped in when our starter went down with a cramp. He runs a 4.48 kind of thing. So we got speed, and that's why I think we're probably faster than the Lions are. But just looking at it, if you look our game and their game, we were a lot more, we were a lot more strict on what we were doing. We weren't out of position. Right. There were so many times when I saw you guys hand off the ball and the entire Lions defensive line was like on the other hash, and all that had to do was run straight forward. And I'm like, yeah, we didn't do that at all. But again, we weren't playing against an RPO offense, so we'll see what happens.
Well, the Lions secondary.
It's safe to say. Go ahead, Eastwood. Go ahead.
The Lions secondary in 2020 was historically bad. The second worst. They gave up the second worst quarterback passer rating in NFL history in a season, and I don't think they've come very far since that. The one thing that I noticed in that game a lot was that Devontae Smith was flying down the sideline every play, and I know he didn't record a catch, and a lot of Eagles fans don't understand what exactly what they were doing with him. But to me, they sent him down the sideline every single play, and AJ Brown was over the middle, and the Lions didn't really seem to be adjusting to covering over the middle at all. He had 155 yards, and most of them were from 3-yard slants over the middle.
And that's one of the things that we're pretty good at, especially with Kendricks. You'll see a play late in the game where Rodgers threw a deep over the middle at the end zone, and he got back there and knocked it down. I mean, that's the one thing. Our Kendricks is just phenomenal at pass coverage, so he helps out in that aspect. But the best thing about our secondary is our edge rushers is making them hurry with the throws. So if we can give our if we don't make our cornerbacks defend for 5 seconds, it's gonna be better. I mean, we got Patrick Peterson. He that play with Watson where he dropped the ball at the beginning of the game. Yeah, that was great. Summit League. I know Goddard played in the Summit League, but yeah, he dropped that ball and beat Peterson on that play. But the rest of the game, Peterson played pretty solid. I think there was maybe one other play that we got gashed on. But I just think that with our pass rush, it's just gonna. That's the one thing. If we run by him, your quarterback's just gonna gash us up the middle. So we just gotta stay in our lanes, and if he doesn't have that one read, is that he just sits there and fumbles around trying to figure out where to run. And that's my hope. Nothing against Hurt. I think he's fun to watch. I would have wanted him on our team too. I think he's going to be a pretty good player in this league. But right now, I just think he's one read, and if we can keep him in that pocket for that one read, and he doesn't find a second, that's my hope. That's my hope. Kind of
so you kind of gave out the game plan to the whole internet on how to stop the Eagles offense then, huh? Great. What are we doing, Eastwood? Why do we let this happen? No. That's why I'm so stunned. The Lions literally let Hurts do. He wants to hit the first read, especially now with AJ Brown, and if it's not there, he's probably going to take off. And that's exactly what happened. He gashed him. He was our MVP in that game, if we're being honest, against that Lions team week 1. We just have to call what it is. Like a pocket passer in that game probably would have gotten eaten up because the Lions were sending everything out. You know?
Yeah, I don't know if Hurts was really. I didn't see too many times where he ran from like a clean pocket though, where he made one read and then said, "Okay, I'm out of here." Like it's hard to judge. It's hard to judge because the Lions were getting so much pressure the whole game. So it seemed like every single time he dropped back, there was a man in his face. So was he running because of that?
Called for it, right? That's.
Mm-hmm. I think there was a couple that I saw maybe early on. I remember he just saw a gap and just took it because it was there. Other than that, yeah, you're right. And then the RPOs, there was one where he faked it and he threw it. It got batted down, I think. Yeah, it seems like everything's going to revolve around the RPO. You guys went to it quite a bit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they always do. Sirianni is obsessed with the RPO. Part of it is you're trying to use Jalen Hurts to his strengths, obviously, the motion offense and defense not knowing what to do. But us Eagles fans would like to see, the coaching staff and Jalen Hurts both kind of get more into a traditional style, play action pocket passer type of thing. But at the same time, it's like if it continues to work, are you going to stop doing it? It's tough because I know when you get to the playoffs and you play a better defense than the Lions, it's going to force you to throw from the pocket. You saw what happened last season with the Eagles versus the Bucs, so it's tough. I'm like, don't go away from what's working. It was week 1, but throughout the course of the season, we definitely want to see, is Jalen Hurts, can he beat teams with his arm? Because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day in the NFL.
He seemed pretty accurate. Of course, I'm watching a condensed version of the game, so I'm not seeing his bad plays as much. But he seemed pretty accurate when he was throwing. There was a play where I think AJ Brown had to come back to it. It was between the corner and the safety on the sideline, and he kind of. I think you brought it up in your like film breakdown. I watched it, and I'm like, yeah, if Cousins throws that route to JJ, he catches it and makes a move and might house it. That was that open. That might be a bold claim. That might be a bold claim there, but I think Cousins hits him in stride, and with Justin Jefferson, or even if it was AJ Brown, he might take that to the house in stride. I know the safety was over the top, but that's one guy.
Right.
I think you beat one guy and you're gone. So there's a
Yeah, that's what I mean.
chance.
Yeah, one of the guys, somebody in the comments said it wouldn't have been a touchdown; it was a cover 2, and I was like, that doesn't.
Well, the safety, you just got to beat the
Right.
safety, right?
Exactly. It doesn't automatically mean the play's dead. That means it's AJ Brown versus a safety. My money's on AJ Brown. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, Justin Jefferson beat 2 guys to get in the end zone on that 41 yard, or I forget how long it was, but yeah, he beat 2 guys to get down to that goal line.
Yeah, Steve, how do you feel about this? Bubba45 in the chat says he didn't get past his first read on Sunday. 17 rushes is not a recipe for success. Our first play of the season was a designed quarterback run. That's ridiculous.
The thing, man. I don't think, if you look at that 17 rush attempts by Hurts, I definitely think it's skewed because it was literally a lot of them were just drop back pass calls, right? If I'm not mistaken, and he had to take off because the Lions were getting after him. I mean, I broke it down, a little bit in one of my videos. Obviously, I would hope Sirianni is not game planning to rush Jalen 15 times. That was Jalen just saying, hey, they can't stop me. I mean, he averaged like 7.5 yards a carry, 90 rush yards. Obviously, that's not a formula that can sustain all season. That's just what, we needed to do to win, week 1 against the Lions. But as far as like the first read thing, I mean, that's been the knock on him. But I mean, there were some examples I would say in that game where maybe he got past his first read. But again, like when he was taking off and running all those times, it was because the pass rush was literally there. It's a difference between him just taking off and kind of like feeling or hearing footsteps, which he kind of did a lot last season. Obviously, Eastwood would be more familiar with it, where there was a relatively clean pocket and Hurts would kind of just like start taking off left for whatever reason, So we'll see if he keeps it up. I'm very intrigued, to see this how he matches up against the Vikings, who I think are going to have kind of a more smarter approach. I don't think it's a good idea to just send like the house on Jalen because it's funny because that works with a lot of good passing quarterbacks because their counter is to like step up in the pocket, right, and make a throw. Jalen does the opposite. I think he likes that because then he can run. He wants to get to the sidelines on those runs because he can just beat everybody out there. He's too quick for, the defensive lineman, and he's too big for the corners to take down because, Jalen's a pretty strong QB. So I'm just very interested. This matchup just is really intriguing to me.
Well, speaking of that, I'm not really sure what the Detroit Lions game plan was. It seemed like they were doing the exact opposite of what I would do against Jalen Hurts. Like I would have went 4-3, no blitz. I would have sat back in his zone. I would have tried to defend the pass and made him beat you with your arm, and they were sending the house. Dave, how do you feel about? How do you feel about Kirk Cousins in general? I wanted to ask you that because I remember the Vikings with. Now I forgot his name. I remembered his name a couple seconds ago. The quarterback that was there right before they made that Kirk Cousins trade or big free agent signing, whatever it was. And they went pretty deep into the playoffs that year, right? And then they made the Kirk Cousins signing, and I think they were at the time like a Super Bowl contender. A lot of the consensus was they were
guys in the NFC title game.
Yeah, a lot of the consensus was they're going to add Kirk Cousins, and that's going to put them over the top. Do you feel like it's been a little plateau, sort of, like almost not as much better as they thought it was going to be, for lack of better words here? My vocabulary's not up to par today. But do you feel like it hasn't been as Kirk Cousins signing hasn't been as impactful as Vikings fans thought it was going to be right away?
A quick shout out to Grandizer12 and Purple Pocket Podcast. Thanks for coming over and listening, guys. I do a live show with Purple Pocket Podcast 2 or 3 times a week, so I thought I'd shout that out. And he probably hears me say this like a dozen times a week. But 2017 we had Casey Keenum. He was actually our third quarterback because we lost Teddy Bridgewater, and
that's right.
Yeah, so we ended up having to play Keenum, and even then we brought Bradford in against the Bears, and he looked terrible. So we put Keenum back in. He brought us back from to win. But often said that was the number 1 ranked defense in the league. You may not saw that when you guys played us, and it was embarrassing in the NFC title game. But that was our MO: is that Keenum could go make something happen if something broke down. He's pretty mobile, and he was good enough to throw the ball, but he didn't have to do too much because our defense was that good. The next year, our offensive coordinator goes to the Giants. We get D. Filippo. You know that guy. Keenum would not have been a good. That was a timing offense. Keenum would not have been good in that. So Cousins was probably the right choice. But what also happened that offseason is our offensive coordinator or our offensive line coach died, and he was well known for being one of the best ones in the league. And we went from like a 17th ranked offensive line, which was kind of an anomaly for us because it's been pretty bad, to one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen us have. And we had like the second worst run offense in the league too that year because D. Filippo got fired midseason. So that season was like an epic disaster, the 2018 season. Well, then we go to the playoffs in 2019. We beat the Saints. They were heavily favored against us. We even had a turnover early in the game in our own territory. We still came back and beat these guys. But overtime even. So in the last 2 years is like Zimmer took a hiatus. Like he didn't give a crap. Yeah, the defense was terrible. He's a defensive coach. He famously said in 2020 before the season started, "I've never had a bad defense." Well, you just had two of them. If anybody deserved to be let go, was him. And I give him credit for bringing us back from the Frazier era, where we did all of a sudden start having bad defense, and now that guy's killing it over killing it in Buffalo. So I'm like, what is happening? And it's like, why can't you have good defenses when you coach us? But yeah, with Zimmer, he had a run mandate. There was a game where we had like 5 yards rushing like in the first half, and he gets an interview going in the halftime, and he goes, what do you got to do different? Well, we gotta run the ball more. No, man, you cannot run the ball. Put Cousins in no huddle and go after it and try to get back in this game. And that's where Cousins has been most successful. And to tell you right now, it's been a welcome change. You'll see him get in the line with 15 seconds to go on the play clock. He is now making checks at the line. He's audibling stuff he was not allowed to do because they gave him the play late. He'd get up the line with 5 seconds. They had to hike it right away and just see what happens. It's just total different offense now. And Kevin O'Connell's made that pretty clear. And if you go watch, our game at all, and he was up at the line 15 seconds to go and was making adjustments. It was pretty awesome to see. And I rattled on a little bit there. Sorry,
Steve. What do you?
We kind of have to hope Jalen gets to that. I hope hearing from that, because Kirk has been there, several years now. I hope Jalen can get to that point. Obviously, they're both different quarterbacks. We don't even know if Jalen's going to be here after this year. But you mentioned the Vikings offensive line. How I think in my opinion, the biggest matchup in this game is going to be, can the Eagles, who I honestly, I'm kind of ashamed to admit it, I think our defensive line is overrated now. I think Eastwood will probably agree with me, matched up with that Vikings offensive line, which I don't think is really necessarily the strong suit of the Vikings. You would probably agree with me, Dave. The Eagles only got 1 sack in a game against that Detroit Lions team who has Jared Goff, who's got like cement feet. They're off. I know they have one of the better offensive lines in the league, but again, they're playing with some injuries, and the Eagles on paper were supposed to have one of the better pass rushes heading into this season, right? And we trade up for Jordan Davis. For some reason, he only plays 22 snaps in that first game. I know he's young, he's kind of raw, but when he was in the game, the Lions only ran they averaged 2.9 yards per carry. When he wasn't in the game, the Lions averaged like 10 yards a carry. So what do you think about the Vikings O-line going up against the Eagles defensive line in this game?
So there was some early struggles, and I think they're gelling. They're trying to get gel a little bit more. But with Bradbury, I think Bradbury and our rookie Ingram, they struggled a little bit earlier, but against Clark, so he was a little bit of a force, and he made him look silly early on. But Cousins was able to get rid of the ball, so we only gave up 1 sack in that game. and that, the Packers are supposed to be known for being a pretty aggressive defense. So I feel pretty good about that. That is probably the weakest part of our offense for sure, and team in general. But we got 2 bookend tackles now. O'Neal and Darisaw are gonna be fine, and they're gonna be there for 10 years, man. Hopefully, Ingram, he's just a rookie. He's gonna get it. Whether or not he's gonna get it in the second game, I don't know. But if you go back and look at our run game, these guys were, and I know you're talking about pass rush, but these guys are all good in the run game. It's just the pass game. Now, Cleveland ended up having a pretty good game at left guard. So our weaknesses are center and right guard. So if you got your best pass rusher, just like we've been doing, we put Zadarius Smith anywhere. It's anywhere. And that's what the Packers did with him. So if you guys focus on our guard and our center, with your best pass rushers up the middle, that's where Cousins has had the struggle in the past, because he's always had Bradbury sitting in his lap every day, going against really tough nose tackles. So if you want to get to Cousins, that's where you go, is pass rush up the middle and try to blow up Bradbury. Supposedly he gained weight and he's got a better anchor, but we're not seeing that quite yet. He didn't grade out like that yet, but I'm licking my chops on the run game right now. That's where I'm looking. If the Lions did that to you guys, and we got a really good run offensive line and a couple good, hell, we got 4 good running backs with Nwangu and Ty or Ty Chandler out of North Carolina. That was a hell of a draft pick in the 5th round.
Yeah, if I'm Minnesota in this game, I'm not even passing the ball until the Eagles make me pass the ball. To be honest, with what I saw, what I saw with that defense, and there's a reverse angle showing the wide 9-4-3, and that's what they were in most of the game. I mean, you can drive a truck through it, and if there's no linebackers filling the gaps, it's just right there for the taking, and they did it with ease the whole game. They drove right down the field.
First Swift run, man, that was just gap.
Yeah, and towards the end of the game, when they started to come back, I'm sitting here saying, I'm not really seeing Jared Goff do anything amazing. How do they keep climbing back? But they were just running the ball right down the field. It felt like every single possession. So I would say what the Eagles need to do most this Monday night is it's all on Jonathan Gannon. I know I sound like a broken record to the people that listen to me every day, but it's all on him, man. They need to switch it up. That Eagles, I don't know if I would call that Eagles defensive line overrated yet. I just can't believe how they were used on Sunday, or not used on Sunday. And yeah, I think, it should be pretty obvious right now that Jordan Davis needs to be on the field. I mean, it should have been obvious from the jump. You got, the anchor of one of the best college defenses of all time, and it's not like he's, it's not like he snuck in there or he did something amazing. Like, it's not like he's undersized and he overperformed to get there. He's an absolute monster of a human being. You need 2 guys to stop him. He should automatically, as a rookie, be one of the main weapons of this defensive line. And John Gannon's doing this kind of thing where it's like, we're going to ease him in, and you know what I mean? And Nakobe Dean not only being on the field for 2 snaps really bugs me too. Those are 2 guys that they were the 2 anchors of that Georgia Bulldogs defense, and I think with how inefficient or the deficiencies the Eagles had last season, those 2 guys need to be a major part of this defense. So I think that's step 1 for John Gannon, realizing he was wrong last week, and it's time to play those 2 guys.
And Jordan Davis, and we're sitting there at 12, and I did videos, and the guy I wanted us to draft was Jordan Davis. That's the one guy I wanted us to draft if we did not trade out of that spot. We traded out all the way down to 32 and took Lewis Seen, another Georgia guy, but I was just wanting Jordan Davis. And when I saw him, and they were showing videos of him in preseason just shoving the crap out of these what looked like tiny offensive linemen. We're like, oh my God, we missed out on Warren Sapp because he smoked weed. We didn't want to take him, so we took a guy, and then we passed on Aaron Donald and took Anthony Barr and put him in a 4-3 defense when he played in a 3-4. And I'm like, yeah, we missed out on Aaron Donald. Now, mind you, we've gotten plenty of good defensive linemen over the years. But just to remind myself that both those guys won freaking Super Bowls. And now I got Jordan Davis going to the Eagles. I'm like, oh, my God, we're going to miss out again. But, yeah, your game plan should be put Jordan Davis on the field and put him over Garrett Bradbury every single play, and you guys would probably do pretty good. And I know there was a stat like there was 22 plays, and he had like there was 3 yards or less than 3 yards per carry by when he was out there. How many of those were running plays? Like how many do you know?
Yeah, it's probably a pretty small sample size. I guess
that's what I'm hoping.
I would say
that's what I'm hoping.
Off the top, I would say half. So that 2.9 yards per carry might not be totally fair. It's not like they were running the ball. 10 plays even really big enough sample size? But still, compared to 10 yards per carry, it's a pretty big gap.
There might be something there.
Well, it seems currently that's the only situations Gannon and the Eagles feel like he can play right now, and that was kind of one of his not even knocks. We knew that coming into his rookie year that would be the approach, but I don't know, man. I just think when you're that big and you have all that talent, and to Dave's point, you mentioned how Kirk struggles with like a pass rush in his face. I'm thinking, hey, if this is the game to find out if Jordan Davis can do that, man, do it. I know he's young. Maybe we would trust like Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave more. I mean, it's probably scaring you all these names I'm throwing out. I also wanted to note really quickly, I don't know how we haven't said it 40 minutes into this show, and I know Eagles fans are going to get pissed at me, but you mentioned all these players that you missed out on. I mean, you guys can literally thank us for passing on Justin Jefferson, man, because it's funny. And now you guys have Jalen Reagor on your team now, which is just wild. It's crazy how sports work, huh?
Did he get on the field? Did Reagor get on the field?
Punt return last week? I don't know if he saw the field as a receiver. I can't picture him out there, but the punt return. So the good thing about the whole thing is we don't have a guy floating over to catch a punt anymore. Jalen Reagor on every single punt, he was sitting under there waiting for it. And so the fact that he can judge a fly ball and an ISM who we couldn't is the reason why we got Jalen Reagor on the team. I'm pretty sure of it. And I know he's probably muffed some in the past, but what punt returner hasn't. But I'm just feeling better that we got someone back there that caught the ball and was able to judge the ball, because we didn't have ISM never caught a punt in the pros. He never caught a punt in college. And here he was going to go out there week 1 as our punt returner. He did kick returns in college, but he never caught a punt in a game in college or the pros. And I was like, oh shit, this is going to be bad. And then we made a move. We got Reagor. So hopefully he finds a spot in this offense. It's going to be kind of hard, but he'll hopefully. And he had that one punt return, and he looked like he was going to get knocked back for 5 yards. He stiffed arm a guy and got 7 yards on it. So, hey, play number 1, plus 1.
I think Rager's main issue is that he's I don't know the nicest way to say this. He's a little bit mentally weak to me. If I'm just like comparing him to most NFL players, he seems to get rattled easily.
Steven called him Robin.
And
video.
Oh yeah.
And I think Philadelphia was probably the absolute worst place for Jalen Reagor to be. There was a game. Speaking of muff punts, there was a game
pitching in Yankee Stadium.
There was a game. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. But he muffed 2 punts in one game, and it got to the point where the fans were booing before when the punt team was coming out and he was running on the field. They were booing. They were so sick of him. And the next game, they were booing when he ran onto the field. So now it's like you have all this pressure, you're failing, and the fans are making it worse by stomping you when you're down. But that's what we do in Philly. He just couldn't handle it. So maybe it's different in Minnesota, but I don't know. I personally gave up on Jalen Reagor with his mindset. He just doesn't seem. And then, he got in arguments with fans on Twitter and Instagram, and he's in Instagram DMs telling some guy, like, drop your location, I'll come fight you. Like, really? He just is a little bit of a maniac and needs to grow up, straight up. He needs to mature. He needs to grow up to be a solid rotation player in the NFL. And
Well, he took it a little hard when he saw the stream of the Vikings coaches seeing you draft him. I know you probably saw that video where in the memes of our coaches laughing when you took
So many
Rager
times, but
and yeah, when Justin Jefferson's just fell in our lap. But honest to God, Justin Jefferson wasn't a sure deal. People had a lot of questions on him. We have our biggest podcaster, Purple for the Win. He's got like 57,000 followers. He was actually wanting Rager picked at that spot. So there's guys that wanted Rager out there, and then that didn't want Justin Jefferson. I personally thought he probably was the best receiver available at that point, and if we're going to take one, we better take him. And but I had no idea he was going to be this good. I would love to say that I prognosticated that, but here's a problem we've always had, and the reason why we have mediocre seasons is Diggs didn't dress his first two games of the season. Adam Thielen didn't play until year 4. Justin Jefferson didn't start his first 2 games, then broke an NFL record in 14 games. I'm like, what is with you guys that you could not figure out talent fast enough to make a difference in the season? So yeah, it killed me to see that. But I couldn't tell you that. I mean, I was clamoring, we need to start him over BC Johnson. Who the hell is BC Johnson? Let's start him over BC Johnson, see what he can do. We need it. And no, we started out like 1-5 that year. We ended up being 1 game away from the playoffs, but what the hell? You need to, if you can't recognize it, I'm not in practice, coach. You need to recognize that and put them in the game. Where are you not seeing this talent, man? It's like, it would be like going back to 1998 and saying, Moss, you got to wait your turn. That's the way I feel about it. It's like, Moss, you just got to wait your turn. What the hell?
So
the NFL's an old man's league. I think that's the problem. We're starting to get younger, but I think it's an old man's league is what the issue is.
Yeah. So speaking of Justin Jefferson, I mean, you couldn't start the season any better than Justin Jefferson started. Now, I haven't heard people talk about the Green Bay Packers and the word defense in the same sentence for a while as much as, or maybe just their secondary, or maybe that's how I feel about them. But 9 catches for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. 9 catches for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns.
The funniest part of that game was when the announcers go, "How did he get that wide open?" And he's like, nobody around, like absolutely nobody around. Yeah, and then he catches the ball and does a shimmy thinking he's going to get hit, and he looks and there's nobody around him. I'm like, what were you guys doing? What was your game plan?
Yeah, I think this is a good number 1 battle. A.J. Brown on our side and Justin Jefferson on their side. And the Lions didn't do a whole lot to adjust to A.J. Brown over the middle. I know that was the Eagles' main strategy. It was to send Devontae down the sideline and bring A.J. over the middle, and he was just killing them on the slants, and Hurts was putting it in front of him. On the other side of the ball, Justin Jefferson, 9 catches, 184 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and the Eagles they just didn't look very aggressive. They looked very predictable. I guess Steve too, man. What do you think the Eagles need to do to try to slow down Justin Jefferson? Because goodness gracious, that's a weapon.
So that's the thing. Obviously, that should be the game plan, is to take him away, because, I mean, my goodness, he almost had 200 receiving yards. He's probably the best wide receiver in the NFL. We could argue maybe him or Jamar. I don't know where you want to go with it, Jamar Chase, but I don't know. I kind of like okay, I'm not here to tell you, like, I would much rather live and die with their supporting cast. So, I mean, you're looking at, I actually like KJ Osborne. I think he's pretty good. Obviously, Adam Thielen, I don't know. How's he doing? I feel like he's older now. He's still
got 24 touchdowns the last 2 years.
Okay.
He was he missed 5 games the past 2 years. But so he has 24 touchdowns.
I remember in a fantasy league, I picked him up off the waivers when nobody knew who he was. And Alvin Kamara, also from the Saints. That was the best waiver wire I've ever had in fantasy football, and I won the whole thing. So
Adam Thielen
was part of that.
Like his first big play in the NFL was like a 41-yard touchdown, and we still didn't play him. He got 150 yards that season, and then he blocked a punt for his first touchdown. And then I don't know which was first. Then he blocked a punt for a touchdown. Like he blocked a punt, picked it up, and ran it in for
Wow.
6. This
He's
is
just a
how he
baller
entered the
then, huh?
league, and we still don't play him until you. And how we played him was because Diggs finally got to play. Has a couple 100-yard games. Diggs gets hurt. Thielen comes in, has 100 yards. And then he ended up having 200 yards against the Packers that season. It's pretty crazy how this guy came from. There should be a movie made about. If we ever win the Super Bowl and Thielen's on that team, they better have a freaking movie made about him. That's how crazy it is. Coming from a $500 scholarship to play basketball, ends up playing football, goes to a regional camp and a regional combine, runs a 4.49, and then gets added to the 90-man roster and gets a chance, gets cut, puts on the practice squad, makes the 53 the next year. It's a freaking what the hell? We almost did not have Adam Thielen. That's just insane. One of probably the best UDFAs ever.
Yeah. Oh my God, absolutely. Like I said, I picked him up in a fantasy league. I didn't even recognize the name. I think I had somebody hurt, and I had the first waiver, and it was Adam Thielen, and he was just killing it. I'm like, that was wild. I guess before we get up out of here, we'll just go around and talk about what do you think each team. Well, I guess what do you think each team is the key for each team in this game? So. Like, I'll start it by saying, the Vikings put up 23 points last week. The Eagles put up 38 points. So, the Eagles have weapons. The Vikings have weapons. Jalen Hurts a different style of quarterback than Kirk Cousins. But I think I would say personally that both of these offenses are pretty high-powered. So, for me, it's going to come down to the defense for each team, right? And, I think that's where I'm going to go with it. I think the Eagles, man, I want to see Jordan Davis on the field. I want to see Nakobe Dean in the rotation as far as the linebackers go. I want to see Hassan Reddick rushing the quarterback. I mean, that's his strength.
Yeah, he's dropping back in pass coverage.
He's not a coverage linebacker. There's just things that Jonathan Gannon did that were just so questionable. I mean, it's if we're saying this, we're not football coaches, but it's pretty much common sense if we're saying it, right? It's pretty much general knowledge if we're saying it. So to me, that's somebody with a little bit of an ego that thinks he's a genius, that thinks he's outsmarting everyone in the world, and really it's like, bro, just do what's obvious here. Put Jordan Davis on the field, put Nakobe Dean in the lineup, do what's obvious here. So obviously, my biggest key is Jonathan Gannon needs to make some changes, and I don't know if he knows that or not. He said we have a lot to work on. I don't think we do. I think you have a lot to work on. So I just hope that Jonathan Gannon makes adjustments going into this game, or he's going to find out the hard way that the Vikings can put up more than 35 if the Detroit Lions put up more than 35. So I'm all Jonathan Gannon as far as I'm concerned with the keys for the Eagles.
That's why I'm scared. I think the keys for, obviously, I guess I'll speak on the Eagles again. The key to this game, I should say, is winning in the trenches. I think the Eagles playing at home, they're better up front, in my opinion, on both sides of the ball, especially on the offensive line. As much as I would love for Jalen to just go out here and carve up that defense passing it, I think the smart approach with that high-powered Vikings, especially, they're good at running and passing coming into Philly, would be to just control the game, run the ball, good, run pass balance, keep don't turn the football over and get a pass rush on Kirk Cousins. And, I say that probably sounds like simple, but after that week 1 game, I don't feel great about it. But that's just, to me, that's the keys for the Eagles. They can't, as good as the receivers have gotten for the Eagles and as improved as our secondary is, I just don't think we can go out there and win. I don't think we can beat them in a shootout trying to beat them with our skills players. I think it's going to have to be in the trenches on both sides of the ball.
For you guys, I probably already said it, was to get that pass rush up the middle, blow up our interior line if you can. I don't see necessarily you guys all of a sudden making a 180-degree turn and be able to stop the run. So I think if our offense just doesn't make mistakes. Like that was a biggest thing last year was our offense was we were leading the league in penalties for God knows most of the season. And I think we had like 12 in the first game of the season. This year we had 3, and you guys apparently had 10. So I'm just like, if we limit our mistakes and not get third and long, and I think we had a few too many third and really longs this last game because we only had 4 out of 13 converted, but we did so well on first and second down that it necessarily didn't matter. But yeah, I just hope that that we don't get ahead of ourselves, or that we don't think the game is too, the game is not too big for us, because that's, when we went to the Eagles, that's what it was like. But I think we only got like 3 players left on the team since 2017. Thielen, probably Daniil Hunter, and Harrison Smith. So I just want them to stay within themselves, stay disciplined like they did. And the biggest key I had said was maintaining, trying to keep them in the pocket. And I think with the Lions, what they did is they didn't get they blitzed up the middle and he just ran to the outside. The timing was terrible. The guy, he was able to run around the DN because he didn't get any penetration yet. So it's like they just didn't have good timing. It wasn't out. Basically, our game plan should be don't do what the Lions did. So, and thank God that this game happened before we played you guys, because we got the thing what not to do. And so I just think the key to us winning is just make him look for a second read. Make him look for a second read and see how he does with that, rather than running right away.
Yeah, we'll see, man. I think this is like I said, it's hard to judge it off that Lions game, so this is the biggest, obviously, game 2, but this is the biggest test for the Eagles so far. We're really going to see, I think, in this game, because I agree with what you're saying. I really do expect the Vikings to play a little bit of a smarter approach defensively on Jalen Hurts. So this will be a pretty big test to see if all the things that he's been working on this offseason are there, compared to what he was doing last season. There has to be improvement with the arm. There has to be improvement with throws from the pocket over, down the field. So we'll see. I liked it. I was impressed with his accuracy against the Lions. I thought he was very accurate. And last season, I didn't think he was very accurate. He missed a lot of those slants that he threw to A.J. Brown on Sunday. The season before, he's throwing, making him stop for it or throwing it behind him. So I think his accuracy, just judging it off of one game, because that's all I have to go by, looks pretty improved. So this is a pretty big test. I'm excited to see what happens, for sure. What do you think, Steve?
And I honestly, I just think, like, I'm just sitting here thinking about the division the Vikings are in, and it's like, I think a lot of people going into this year, even with the Packers losing their top receiver, still kind of viewed them as the top team in that division. But I don't know, man. I know it's just week 1. The Vikings went in there and beat them up real bad. It was like, what, 24-7? Was it 24?
23-7?
Yeah, 23-7.
23-7. And it's like,
I actually predicted us winning by 13, and we won by 16. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Man, and so, like, I don't know. I don't really know what the general outlook was on the Vikings from, like, the national media going into this season.
We weren't getting any respect. We were getting a little bit respect. But PFF ranks us 18th right now after week 1. So we're still not getting a whole lot of. There's people converting. I mean, we had like Michael Irvin come out and said Cousins is gonna win the MVP. Colin Cowherd says we're gonna win 13, 14 games. So there's been a couple. Kyle Brandt. Same deal over.
Now, this was before the year they came out and said that.
Yeah, before the year.
Oh, wow.
They said that. Before week 1, Kyle Brandt, Michael Irvin, Cousins going to get MVP. Colin Cowherd said the team that's going to double their wins this next year was the Vikings. That would have meant we won 16, but he toned it down and said 13 or 14. But yeah, we're starting to see. We're seeing the love now because there's some people that power ranked us 5, 3rd, but then PFF ranked us 18 behind the Cowboys, who what's going on with that? Man. They're dead. I mean, how are they going to do anything this year? So yeah, we're still got those holdout people that just hate us, including Minnesota media. Minnesota media was so down on the Vikings in this offseason. It was terrible.
So it's not just Philly media that
No,
hates
no,
their
Yeah, I was
team.
just gonna say.
Well,
Everyone in Philly thinks it's just Philly media. Philly media is so negative. They hate their
Right.
own team. Their whole narrative all the time is to put players down. And but we've been losing for 40 years. Aside from 2017, like there's a whole lot of negative energy in this city when it comes to sports. It's just the way that it is.
Yeah, it just there's a certain pocket. I mean, after the game, there was media guys talking about, well, podcasters that have, big influence, like, 20, 30,000 followers. And it's like, oh, God, he got to the line with 15 seconds ago. Now we had to hear his voice. Oh, man, it's so squeaky. I'm like, what are you effing talking about? Talk about football, man. He just lit up. He just lit up the Packers, and we're 1-0, and they don't know what the hell's going on anymore because they thought that, they didn't think they were going to lose, right? So, I mean, and then there's this guy's, well, hey, 6%. They rank sixth in most riskiest passes because of this pro something digest said that. I'm like, come on, guys. Anybody who saw that game on an eye test saw that Cousins was damn near flawless. And we almost could do anything at any time.
I've heard of a lot.
Yo, that reminds me. I've
heard of a lot of
really
reaches.
Squeaky voice killed me.
Riskiest passes.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
It was advanced analytics or something. It was our locked on guys that talked about that.
If it's a complete pass, I'm happy with it. Riskiest passes, that's ridiculous.
So yeah, no. If that, it's like, what is the situation? Yeah, we weren't throwing, fly routes every play. We had our route was Justin Jefferson running across the field in and out of a zone, and he threw him open. That was the play. That was the play design. Should he have gone to Thielen running a corner route? Maybe, but we're up 10-0 going into the half. Should we make that throw? I don't know. Should we risk giving the ball back? It's a situational thing. And Cousins last year against the Packers, when we beat him, now he's 4-3-1 against the Packers, and they still say he can't win a big game. He's 4-3-1 against the Packers. He can't win on Monday night. He won the last 2 Monday night games he's played. So I'm like, all right. So things have changed, and we got a new coach and a new offense. So, hey, give this guy some credit. He just beat the Packers at home. And when's the last time we only gave up 7 points? What the?
Yeah, in this era, right?
Yeah, no turnovers, 7 points. This was a great game. No, 3 penalties. This is a great game.
Hey, who's gonna tell McNugget? Who's gonna tell him? He says,
"Oh, come on, man.
Vikings, I thought this was a Philly channel. Who's going to tell them that we're playing the Vikings on Monday? Come on, McNugget. Come on, McNugget. Catch up.
It's not really training camp anymore, man. We're not.
You really just expose yourself like that? You really just expose yourself like that? Why are we talking about the Vikings? You really can't figure that out. Are you serious? Anyway.
And I'm also like, obviously an Eagles fan and an Eagles creator. I'd love to get up here and talk smack and say we're gonna beat them up and everything like that. But I honestly this is how I feel. That's why I made a YouTube channel. I just wanted to express my opinions. I'm honestly not very optimistic about this game. If you were to, point a gun at me, I'll probably pick the Eagles to win, but I just don't feel great about it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not gonna come up on here every single day and say we're going 17-0 and all these things.
I need you to say that again. If somebody put a gun to your head, you would pick the Eagles to win right now, based on what you saw.
Yeah, I have to.
Lions.
The home opener. I have to.
It was nice knowing you, Steve.
It's the home opener, man. They better win. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, when I looked at the schedule, I picked this as the 2 toughest games that we'd play, and one was, at Buffalo, and the other one was at Philly. Those were the 2 games. I said those are the 2 toughest games we'll play this year.
Until I see a Jonathan Gannon adjustment, I have no reason to think that he, so I have to expect him. We got to win 40-38.
Yeah, that's
how it has to happen.
It just scares me. NFL is weird, dude. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. For all we know, it could be a low scoring game.
Well, yeah, after 1 week, honestly, it's impressive that we even gave our predictions for an hour and 5 minutes because realistically, I have no idea what's going to happen. I can't even assess anything after that 1 week against the Lions. But
I know.
Yeah, I mean, when I started watching Philly podcasters, and they're talking about, they were just not happy with the way they won. And I could see why, but I think there was a lot of stuff you guys could clean up. That I can tell you for sure. And the fact that Lions kind of played into your game plan with blitzing and letting them run all over you like that. But yeah, I just I don't know what's going on with your defense and personnel choices and stuff like that. So maybe that's something they'll figure out in week 2. But I guess you guys were complaining. Wasn't he your D coordinator last year too, or?
Yeah. And here's what I've come to on him so far this season. And so he interviewed for head coaching jobs in the offseason, right? And so he comes back here, and I just think he has an ego. He thinks and I think he really wants to prove that his system works, and I think he wants to prove that players need to fit his system. You know what I mean?
Is Zimmer your D coordinator?
It's just like I don't like the feeling of a guy that's not thinking with an open mind. I feel like he's really thinking, this is my system, and I need players that fit my system because I'm good enough to be, a head coach. I think that's really what he thinks. I don't think he'll be here for very long. I really don't. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
And you would think it would be the opposite mindset if you want to get a head coaching job. I feel like, I feel like success is number one. So, he just gave up 35 points to the Lions. Like, it's time to adjust to the players you have here. Like, it's just basic, right? Like, if I want a promotion, I'm going to do whatever I can to guarantee success. Not like, oh, it's my way or the highway. I don't care what, the results come out to be, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
that's what I was liking about who we went and chose. We chose a guy that's been in the league forever, and that kind of offset the Donatell, and that's what offset KOC being a rookie head coach, that he didn't necessarily had to worry about it. And they bring in a Pettin who went to 3 NFC title games, and he's the reason Zadarius Smith came to us. And then he actually kind of put a Bears defense together out of nothing last year, and he came from over there. So having Donatell and a Pettin, and they talk about, the big word in Minnesota is collaboration. I don't know if you ever heard Kwesi talk about that, but it's every other word. And I just felt that they have an open mind. Like that's what you're, against your DC about. But yeah, it seems like our defensive coordinators had an open mind and were willing to try anything. And then Kwesi just gave them the players that fit that defense. I usually it's talking about going from a 4-3 to 3-4. They talk about it taking 2 years to change personnel, but I'm like, I think we already had the personnel. Like Kendricks came from a 3-4 in college, and it's a lot of these guys, and then just getting Zadarius Smith and perfect for the 3-4. It just we made that, hopefully, and it's still game 1, but hopefully we've done that faster than anybody of making that switch. And nobody has a book on us right now. That's the one thing we got going for us. Nobody has a book on our offense. Nobody has a book on our defense. That's the advantage we had against the Packers week 1. We may not have it against you guys, but I'm kind of thinking we still might because it is so new, and I don't think we pulled out all the stops yet.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's a good take. So before we get out of here, let's just go ahead and, we only had 1 week to assess what we think about our teams, but let's go ahead and give a score prediction for Monday night. I am going to lie to myself and say that Jonathan Gannon's gonna change something.
Hey, man.
Or if he doesn't, I do think the Eagles have a very high-powered offense. I think the Vikings are going to adjust to A.J. Brown. I think they're going to defend him better than the Lions did. But I think Devontae Smith is going to succeed because of that. I think Dallas Goedert is going to succeed because of that. And, if the Vikings do what we all think they should do with Jalen Hurts, which is stay in their lanes and, not pound the middle and let him run to the outside, he's going to have to beat them with his arm. I'm going to go 30-28 Eagles. 30-28 Eagles. That's what I'm going.
All right. Well, it feels good that I convinced you because
didn't take too kindly to the gun pointing to my face joke, but hey, shout out to you.
Gun to my head. I'm taking the Vikings every time. Well, this is just YouTube.
Well, hey,
There's no
man,
guns
I
here.
saw us win a Super Bowl. I don't think I was ever gonna see that in my life, so I can live or die,
Oh,
I guess,
Jesus.
happily ever after, right? But jeez, what are we doing? All right, score prediction. All right, so I think obviously I'm picking the Eagles to win this one, but I think they win, believe it or not, a little bit lower scoring than your prediction, even the week 1 matchup. I think the Eagles win 27-24. I think we have to settle for a couple field goals instead of touchdowns this week, but I think, in front of that home crowd, I just think they're going to benefit from it. I guess Gannon, and hopefully, hey, by the way, we didn't touch on it. Obviously, we're running out of time, but Howie Roseman, you heard that report that Howie Roseman is kind of involved on like game day decisions? Eagles GM Howie Roseman.
Yeah, he has been, because Doug Peterson left because
Which,
of
by the
him.
way, I don't take an issue with that.
No, I just think when Doug Peterson winning the Super Bowl, I think he wanted to have a lot more control, and he just wasn't going to get that, and he came to that realization. I think that's why people call Nick Sirianni yes man. They think Howie and Jeffrey Lurie just hired a yes man that's going to do what they say. But if I had to predict, I would predict Jonathan Gannon and Howie Roseman to have a little bit of disagreements here, because Howie traded up to draft Jordan Davis, and he didn't play the guy. So it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, Howie's it's his way or the highway, and then you get coaches that have a little bit of an ego, and they end up not getting along. So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out with those guys.
But yeah, that's my prediction.
Dave.
So my prediction, looking at your past game, if you remove that pick six and you remove that onside kick, I don't think we're gonna. My belief is that we'll win the turnover battle. I think that's going to be our MO all year, because they've just been coaching that into us all off season, punching at the ball, just trying to rip the ball all the time. Strip sacks, everything. It's just being ingrained, and that's where the coaches, the defensive coaches, that's just been their thing in their history. So I just think we'll win that battle, and I don't think your defense has it figured out yet, and you kind of like made me even believe that more from talking to you guys. Sorry. That
you took our
I'm actually going to tone it down a little bit, because I'm going to say 31-17. That we're gonna 31-17, guys. So hey, all you guys in the chat, if you want to go give me crap after the game, Minnesota Sports Talk. All right. Let me have it.
Hey, that is true.
I'm gonna do a video after this. You guys go over and check it out and give me hell of my prediction of 31-17.
Yeah,
you are in enemy lines, man. I gotta give you props for sitting. I know the comments are on the screen. It can be a lot, but
like, there's no beer cans gonna be able to fly through the screen at me, so I'm okay.
Absolutely, go check Dave out at Minnesota Sports Talk on YouTube. Of course, check Steven out on the Liberty Line. We're live on the Liberty Line right now, and subscribe to all 3 channels, man. Thank you guys for hanging out tonight. Thanks for chopping it up with us, Dave. It was fun. It's great to get an outside perspective, a Minnesota Vikings content creator's perspective. We appreciate it. Your stuff about the team, so we got a lot of insight from you also when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings. So thanks for doing this, man.
I appreciate it. It's been my pleasure, guys. Have me again next year, or the playoffs, when we face each other in the playoffs.
Oh, that could happen.
Chat, hit the like button. We're out of here. Let's go watch Thursday Night Football.
All right.
Heck yeah.
Later.